Helium may sound like a party gas, but it's far more than that. It's critical for running MRI machines, cooling semiconductors, and even powering space exploration. Supplies have been tight, prices volatile, and governments are starting to see helium as a strategic resource. And that's where the company Pulsar Helium comes in, with a major discovery in Minnesota in the US that could be one of the richest ever recorded in North America. Well, joining me now is CEO Thomas Abraham James for some insight into the company. Thomas, thanks indeed for your time.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for that exciting introduction.
Well, look, we're going to get into the company and all the developments in a moment, but let's raise the curtain on the sector first. Why has helium suddenly become so important? And how did Pulsar find itself right in the middle of this industry?
It's a commodity that's certainly evolved from the party balloons, as you say, and now it's being talked about more regularly, even made some primetime television itself recently too as a talking point. So really it's all about tech. So what do you want to keep really cold without it going solid and freezing? What do you want that's non-combustible? And so we're seeing these new applications constantly, but it's a very tricky commodity. So at the moment, most of it is a byproduct of natural gas, and so you have an industry out there that has no flexibility, and that's really where Pulsar comes into play. So with our flagship asset, Topaz in Minnesota, and indeed our project in Greenland, Tunu, they're both primary helium projects, where helium is the primary economic driver. And should we get through to production, then we could offer some of these big name end users in the tech sector, finally, a little bit of flexibility in their supply chain.
Yeah, take us back to Minnesota in the US. You drill down, the readings come back at more than 12% helium. That's nearly 30 times what's considered commercial, Thomas. What did that moment mean for you and your team? It must have been a pinnacle moment.
It was a very happy day, I must admit, to have that confirmation there. With all the subsurface work that we did beforehand, and then to have that. And not only that, so extremely high concentration. It's got very positive knock-on effects. I mean, grade is king, so it could have very positive reflection on operating costs and reducing the amount of overall gas that you need to find to go to production. But on top of that, naturally coming to surface, there's no fracking, and there's no water associated with it, or indeed any hydrocarbons. So it's exactly what we were hoping for.
Yeah. Where do things stand now on the ground at Topaz? And when will we know more about the gas composition, the scale of the reservoir? I mean, essentially what I'm asking is, when you consider all of that, how long will it take you to produce?
So we've got some of the key ingredients already. And so that is the flow, the composition. Now it's all about the size of the prize. So finding enough gas to then justify going into production. So what we've just announced is that we're drilling up to an additional 10 wells. That's starting later this month. Very exciting. So every few weeks there'll be another well result. And this is actually a very cost-effective way of drilling too. So we get a lot of bang for our buck. And so that's the anticipation is that when we go into next year, we then look at a resource update. We then look at an economic assessment. And then with any luck, everything looking positive, should we then go to the point of production, then you're looking at about 12 to 18 months for design, fabrication, and commissioning of a helium plant.
On top of that, you recently announced, a huge 1,000% increase in land position. I'm wondering if your much anticipated multi-well drilling program, can it be deployed across this new acreage?
It is possible. It's not the intention, but really the focus is on getting it to Topaz to get that resource up and realize its production potential. But this additional land package is just extremely compelling. What this is, this adds the growth for the company. And so really for a low-cost acquisition in a very, very prospective area. I mean, we've been working in this area now for a number of years. We know what the secret ingredients are, the Goldilocks zone for helium accumulations. And this area ticks the box. And so really get Topaz online, and then the growth for the company we see as being this increased package.
Help me out a little here, Thomas. How does one go about reading the helium market? I mean, it's not something you bump into every day, bump into someone and they can read the helium market. How do you look at it?
It is quite opaque, and that's really one thing that we would like to break up a little bit. But what we have seen is it's historically been long-term confidential agreements, so the pricing therefore has been quite hidden. But now we're seeing increased data out there about helium imports and exports, and with that, the pricing. We know that the pricing is very healthy. We know that production in the USA has been in decline, and so now the US needs to start looking at imports from abroad. Helium does not like to travel. It's going back to the helium party balloon. After a few days, it's shriveled up on the floor. And you could say the same on the macro scale too. If you're transporting helium internationally, then most likely you'll incur losses, which is why it's important to have a domestic source of helium as well. So look, we really see the ramp up of AI and computer chips and space launch as being an incredibly healthy market for helium.
Under that backdrop, you've described Pulsar as the only listed junior in North America with access to helium of this grade. What does it actually mean when it comes to moving into production? Seemingly a very advantageous position, I would imagine.
Yeah, look, really it is. Like all commodities, grade is very important. And with that, I mean, in order to process, you need to get a pure product, 100% pure helium, which is what the market wants. And that gives flexibility with the production in terms of what's your recovery rate going to be and your sensitivity. Well, you can appreciate that a very low helium concentration means that you have to process an ocean of gas and you need to have exceptional recoveries, which is something that we're not looking at. We're looking at a very clean gas, one that's straightforward to process, and really because of that high concentration, possibly significantly less gas having to be worked on in order to get that same end product. So what we hope, therefore, is that a low-cost producer is what we're working towards, but also a reliable producer. We're not working on these tiny margins. So for any customer out there, to get that trust factor and a reliable source of helium.
All right, so roadmap from here, Thomas. I mean, as you move from discovery towards development and then ultimately production, what's it looking like?
Yeah, the roadmap, so it's busy, that's how it's looking. So it's really, with the drilling kicking off in a couple of weeks' time, we've got the gas analysis from the wells that we've drilled coming back soon as well. We've got engineering studies with Chart Industries out of the US looking at production scenarios, resource update next year, economic assessment, and then with any luck to then start to pivot to talk about production. So it really, for a helium occurrence, to get it from discovery through to production significantly quicker than, say, our peers in the mining industry, where it can take years or decades to reach similar milestones.
Now, well, it sounds compelling indeed. Well, thanks very much, Pulsar Helium CEO Thomas Abraham James. Thanks indeed for talking to us, Thomas.
Thank you for having me.